Okay, so now it's recording, it started already. Okay, so now that we have cloned our remote repository to our local repository, okay, we want to actually get some information on it. So one of the first things we'll do is we'll type this command git remote minus minus verbose, because that just gives us some information about that repository that we just cloned. So we go back to developer B's window here, and we type git remote minus verbose to make sure that we have got it. Oops, sorry. We have to change, I have to change into the repository first. So I have to type cd first shared repository. So change into that repository first, forgot to do that. So change into that repository first. So now we can see we are in that repository, because definitely you can see there's a master here. And then we type git remote minus minus verbose, press enter. And so now we can see, yes, this this local repository on developer B's machine is linked correctly to the correct remote repository to do a fetch operation and also to do a push operation. Okay, now if you want to get more detailed information on the remote tracking branches in the local repository and the relationship between the local branches and upstream branches, we are going to type this command, say git remote show origin. So let's go ahead and type this command now. So git remote show origin, press enter. Okay, for this one, you might have to get a password. No, you don't need. Okay, so now you get back some response, and this is the response you get back. Okay, now this one, you can see all these things: remote branch, master track, local branch configured for git pull, master merges with remote master, local ref configured for git push, master pushes to master. What is all this thing all about? What is all this information here all about? Okay, this one is actually talking about what we call a tracking branch or a remote tracking branch. Okay, so what is a remote tracking branch? Okay, a remote tracking branch is a reference to an upstream branch that is stored in the local repository, and it allows the local repositories to keep track of the evolving state of the remote repository. Okay, and this remote tracking branch has the name or the format remote name, which is typically the origin. The remote name will usually be origin / the branch name. So typically right now you only have one branch, which is master, so you'll be origin / master. Okay, so what is the purpose of the remote tracking branch is to associate or to link a local branch with an upstream branch that both have the same name. So the local branch is called the tracking branch. The branch that's in the remote repository, we call it the upstream branch. And then the thing that links the tracking branch and the upstream branch, we call it the remote tracking branch. Okay, and this tracking relationship will simplify the process of transferring content between the local tracking branch and the upstream branch. Okay, I know this is very, very confusing right now. So let's take a look at the diagram. So right now, when developer A cloned the remote repository to his machine, this was a branch. Let's say you have a branch on your remote repository. It's called DEV. Okay, so the branch on the remote repository, okay, whatever the name is, can be DEV, can be master, can be whatever. Okay, this branch that is on the remote repository, we call it the upstream branch. Okay, so now we clone the entire contents of the remote repository to our local repository, and our local repository will have an exact copy of all the branches that the remote repository have. Okay, so the branches that are on our local repository, we call this the local branch. So for every upstream branch, there is a corresponding local branch, because your local repository is an exact copy of your remote repository. Okay, so we know what is an upstream branch, we know what is a local branch. Now we have an extra thing to make your life super complicated, which is called the remote tracking branch. So what is the purpose of the remote tracking branch? The remote tracking branch is to join or to link the upstream branch with the local branch. I'll repeat that again. The purpose of this additional branch called the remote tracking branch is to link or to associate the upstream branch with its associated local branch. In other words, I want to say that this upstream branch called DEV is actually linked to this local branch with the same name as well. Okay, I need to make this association. Okay, now you may be wondering, like, why do I need to make this association? Because both of them have the same name, right? Well, the thing with Git is Git can actually allow you to have an upstream branch that has a completely different name from the local branch. Okay, then in that case, it is quite complicated. I won't recommend you to do this, but there are some very super Git experts here. They actually want to have an upstream branch name that is completely different from the local branch counterpart, right? Because they want to do some super complex stuff. Okay, like I said, I don't recommend you to do this because you just make your brain explode with the complexity. But if you want to do that, then you need to have an additional third branch called the remote tracking branch, which tells you which upstream branch is linked with which local branch. So that additional branch is called the remote tracking branch. Okay, so I'm just going to, like I said many times, I'm going to avoid all this complexity. Always try to make sure your upstream branch has exactly the same name as your local branch. And then the name of the remote tracking branch is just the shortcut handle for the remote / the name of the branch. All right, so now we have all together 3 branches. The upstream branch, which is a branch on the remote repository, the local branch, which is the same branch on your local repository, and then you have the remote tracking branch, which is a special thing that joins or links the upstream branch with your local branch. Whew, complicated, right? Yeah, that's Git for you. Okay, so now that we know that, this information here is basically all about your remote tracking branch. It's saying that the master is being tracked using a remote tracking branch, and the local master is going to merge with the remote master, and the local master is also going to push to the remote master. And right now, the local master and the remote master, both of them are synchronized exactly with each other. So both of them are up to date. Okay. All right, now let's go ahead and just type a git log --1 line here. Okay, so we can see now, look and see what we have here. Okay, so you see the standard head is pointing to master. And what about these 2 other things here? Can you see that the 2 other things there? What are these 2 other things? Well, these 2 other things are basically that remote tracking branch that I was telling you about, right? So the remote tracking branch, as I can repeat again, is to link or associate your upstream branch with your local branch, right? So that's exactly what you are seeing here. Sorry, what you are seeing here, right? So you have, this is your remote tracking branch. So the master, this remote tracking branch is linking your upstream master with your local master, and this remote tracking branch is linking your upstream head with your local head. Okay, so we have 2 remote tracking branches now for the master and for the head, right? And this one is just your normal standard head pointer and your normal standard master branch, which is all local. Okay. Any questions? Okay, now if you just want to get the names of the remote tracking branches, the command to type is this. If you want to get the names just only of the remote tracking branches, you say git branch ---- remote. Okay, so we go back to here, we type, I'm going to clear this, okay, git branch ---- remotes, like this. Okay, so now you can see these are the 2 remote tracking branches. Okay, right, so you can see origin master is your first remote tracking branch, and the second remote tracking branch is origin head. And this one is, as I already explained, is to associate the remote head with the local head, and this one is to associate the remote master with the local master. Okay, now if you want to get information on all the branches in your repository, then you type git branch ---- all. All right, so let's go ahead and do that right now. We type, sorry, go back to developer B, type git branch, and this one gives you information about all the branches, the remote tracking branch, the local branches. So now you can see this is your local branch and this is your remote tracking branch. Okay, if you just type git branch, you will only see your local branch. So if I just type git branch, I will just see my local branch. Right now, there's only one local branch, which is master. That's also my active branch. So if you want to see all the branches, including the remote tracking branch, you have to say git branch minus minus all. Okay, any questions? All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to create and push a feature branch to the remote repository. Okay, so now it's the time to configure the username and the user email for developer B. Okay, so now we are talking about this developer here. Okay, so for me, developer B is Victor Tan. For you, developer B will be something else. But now in the bash shell for developer B, we now need to configure the username and the email address for developer B. So we go ahead and configure that right now. I'm going to paste this down here. And now this is the Bitbucket account name for developer B. So for my developer B, if I go up to here, my Bitbucket account name for developer B is Victor Tan. So I will change this here to Victor Tan. Okay, and this one is my user email for developer B, and that will be victor.tan.33@gmail.com. all right, okay, you can also see this from here as well, right? That is this, we are looking for this email here, victortan.33@gmail.com. So don't use my email and my username, use your account for developer B. Okay, once you've got that, I want you to copy and paste that into your developer B shell. Please don't be confused now. We are now working with developer B. So copy and paste this into the bash shell for developer B. Okay, don't accidentally put it into developer A shell, then you're going to get a lot of errors. So now we're in developer B, you are working with developer B. We are configuring the username and email address for developer B. And after you have done that, you want to just double check that it is configured properly. You can do that. Okay. So you go ahead and type git config --list --show -origin. Press enter. And if you go all the way down here, you should see that this is set correctly. Okay. And the other thing I want to note for you guys to note is this is actually set in this particular repository, only this repository. So this setting, username equals to Victor Tan, user email equals to victortan.33@gmail.com. This setting is only applicable only for this repository, right? So for other repositories, you can have a different setting, which, as we already saw, if you switch back to the shell for developer A, and in developers A shell, you type git config --list and --show origin, you are going to get a different value, right? So right now in your developer A bash shell, your user.name is Mark Learner and your user.email is marklearnfast@gmail.com, whereas in your developer B shell, your user.name is Victor Tan and user.email is victortan.33@gmail.com. Okay, so the point I'm trying to tell you here is because I use the ---- local setting for these two configuration variables, that means the values are only applicable for one particular repository. Okay, and this is perfectly what I need for my workshop example here, because I want developer A and developer B to have different settings, right? So that's what I do here. So in a real life world, you don't have to do this, because in a real life world, you are the only one who is going to be using the laptop. So you don't have to use a ---- local. You can use a ---- global or ---- system, whichever is better for you. Okay. Now we are going to go back to developer B. So let's go back to developer B. Make sure you're in the correct bash shell. Right now we are talking about developer B's bash shell, and in developer B's bash shell, we are now going to create a new branch by typing in these two commands. So first we go back to master, and then we create a new branch And here you can see the name of the branch. I call it feature/new cars. Now this name, this thing is not necessary, but typically when we commit stuff to a Bitbucket account, we will put in or we precede the name of the branch with this word feature. So we actually classify this as a feature branch, which means you're adding new code to it. Okay, so we type git checkout -b feature new cars. All right, we type these two commands. Okay, go back here. So we go back here, type git checkout master to make sure you're back on your master branch. Okay, then you type git checkout -b feature/new cars, like that. So this will create a new branch, and now we are going to assume that developer B is the one that is assigned. Developer B now is assigned to create this new feature, and this new feature involves developing some new cars. So developer B has been assigned. Developer B has been assigned by developer A, the project manager. Project manager tell developer B, okay, your assignment is to create a new feature for cars. So developer B is going to now create a new source code file called cars.txt, and it's going to start putting code inside there. So go ahead and create now. This is in developer B. So in developer B's first shared repository, the local repository of developer B, we are now going to create a new file, a new source code file called cars.txt. Okay, and then we're going to open up this in Notepad, and then we're going to put in one single line of code there, which is Honda. Copy this, put this in here, and then we're going to save this. Okay, and then we're going to go back here. All right, and then we are going to just stage the new file with this command, and then we are going to create our first commit. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to the shell for developer B and type in these two commands. So git add --all. Okay, so that will create we'll put it into the staging area. Then we create a commit from the changes in the staging area by typing git commit -m, added new cars file with a single line. Press enter, and now that goes in. Okay, so now developer B has started working on their assignment. They have just put in a first line of code. So over the afternoon, they keep working on it. Let's say they make another change to their source code file. So now they add in another line of code, which is now a Mercedes. Okay, so now this is still developer B, still working on the assignment for cars.txt. And then again, we can go ahead and commit this in. Again with that command git commit -am. So we're going to go ahead and type this command here. So go back here, we'll say git commit -am, added second line to the new cars file. Press enter. Okay, and so now we have this in. Okay, then we type git log --one line just to check and see whether everything is okay. --one line -all, press enter. Okay, so now we can see right now your head is pointing to this new branch which you have just created. You have put two new commits into the branch. Your master is still pointing to the old commit, and your remote tracking branch is also still pointing to that old commit that added animals with a single line. Okay, that's exactly what you expect. Okay, now if we type this command git branch -all. Okay, let's type git branch -all. Okay, if I type git branch -all, okay, right now you will see there is no remote tracking branch for this new branch I've created. Right, the local branch is called feature new cars, but you do not see a remote /features/new cars. That means there's no remote tracking branch for this new local branch yet. Okay, so why is that? Okay, that is because I still have not pushed this new branch up to my remote repository. Until I do that, the remote repository does not know that the local repository has a new branch. Okay, I repeat again. Right now, we do not see any remote tracking branch for this new local branch. We do not see remote slash feature slash new cars. The reason you do not see that is because this new branch that I've created locally, this new local branch has not yet been pushed or updated to the remote repository. And until you do that, you will not be able to get a remote tracking branch. Okay? So what we can do is we can try to push it first. So let's try and do a push. Let's try and type a git push. So push means to just update, okay, the remote repository with the latest changes in my local repository. So type git push, press enter, and you will see this thing here. It says fatal. The current branch feature new cars has no upstream branch. Okay, do all of you get this? All right, so assuming all of you got that, all right, great. So like I said, right now you have a new local branch. You're trying to push it up to your remote repository, but you cannot do that because right now the remote repository does not actually have this branch, okay? So you can't do it. So in that case, you actually have to type a command like this. You have to actually follow what git says. You have to type git push minus set upstream origin slash feature slash new cast. You have to do this, and this will actually push your new local branch up to the remote repository, and at the same time create a remote tracking branch for it. So we type git push minus set minus upstream origin feature slash new dash cast. Okay, exactly as what git has suggested to us. So we press enter, and okay, it seems to have not asked me for my password. Here I didn't get asked for my password, so somehow I think it must have cached my password. But if you get asked for your password, then remember to just type in this app password here. Okay, so if you get some kind of prompt that's coming out asking you for your app password, then type in this app password that you created just now into there, and then you should see all these things coming out here. Okay, so does anybody have a problem that you cannot push up? Okay, so all can push up. So now that we have successfully pushed up a new feature branch, a new branch from our local repository to the remote repository, let's double confirm that it's actually now in our remote repository. So I'm going to go back to my window for developer B, and I'll just refresh this. Okay, if I refresh this right now, okay, and I click on here, now I should see a new branch there which says feature new cast. Okay, please double confirm this for yourselves. Go to the home page for developer B, and if you click on this link here, this drop down list here, you should be able to see, other than the master branch, now we have a feature new cast branch. And if you click on this branches item here, you can also see now you have the master branch and the feature new cast branch. And if you click on the feature new cast branch, you should be able to see all the latest commits in the feature new cast branch. You can also see the diff related to all the things that you added to the commits in the features new car branch. Okay, so this is your feature new cars branch. Right now you can see there are 2 commits there, and these commits were created by Victor Tan, which is developer B. Okay, and if you go to the home page for developer A, you will see exactly the same thing, because right now both of them are seeing or viewing the same repository. So if you go back now to the browser for developer A, and you go into the first shared repository, should also see the same thing. Should be able to see master and your feature newcast. Okay, and if you click on this, you should also be able to see, okay, the latest commits on this new branch, which was pushed up by developer B. All right, any questions? Okay, now let's go back and let's just take a look. If I go to my branches view here, right? Okay, can you see there's this 02 here? I want you to look carefully at the branches view. You can use either developer A's window or developer B's window, because both of them should have exactly the same view of the repository right now, because they both have full access to the repository. So if you look carefully now, can you see there's this 02? Okay, what does this 02 means? So you can see that it's telling you this new branch is 2 commits ahead of your master. It's 2 commits ahead of your master. And if you go back to your B here, if you do a git log --1 line, we can see that yes, in fact, this feature newcast branch is actually 2 commits, is 2 new commits that's ahead of your original master branch. Right? Can you see that? If you go back to your developer B, not developer A, you look at developer B's bash shell, you type git log --1 line, you can see clearly that the feature newcast branch right now is 2 commits ahead of your master branch. Right? It's 2 new commits ahead of your master branch, and that is exactly what is being shown here. Okay, why do we need to know all this? Is because always remember, at the end of the day, what we want to do is to merge all the latest content in our feature branch or whatever branches we are working on. We want to merge the content back into our master branch, right? That's the whole idea. That's the whole idea of the development workflow. Okay. Okay, so let's head back here again. So we have already done all this. Okay, so let's just check the list of remote tracking branches again in developer B, first shared repository with git branch ---- remote. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So just double check again back in developer B. So go back to developer B now. We're just going to go ahead and type this, say git, okay, branch ---- remotes. And we can see now we have this new tracking branch for that new local branch that we have pushed up to the remote repository. Okay, so now everything is A-okay, because now we have a remote tracking branch for all the branches that we have in our local repository. So in fact, if we type git branch ---- all now, we can see for these 2 branches, feature master and feature newcast, we also have an equivalent tracking branch to link it to the remote repository, right? So for these 2 local branches, we have an equivalent remote tracking branch to link these 2 local branches to the upstream branches in the remote repository. So we are all set. Okay. Any questions at this point? Okay. So let's take a short break here. I think most of you will probably, some of you already have gone off. No worries. If you need to go off, go off. So like I said, I'm still recording this. Okay. So what I will do is I will continue to record this, and let's take a short break. So some of you may want to continue with me until the end. So let's just take a short break first. We'll come back, say around at say 5:15. All right, let's come back at 5:15 and then we continue. If you need to go now, then yeah, sorry, just go ahead, and I will upload the recording onto the course LMS and you guys can watch it. Okay, so I am going to stop sharing now, and I will take a break until 5:15, and then after that we'll just continue until we finish.